Okay. Sorry, I stopped the previous clip instead of pausing it. So this is a new clip. As you can see, we have installed the initial JStream package. Now, after the initial was installed, since it's an initial JS, it prompts us to run the npm install and the npm run dev. Okay, so these are the next command we are going to run here. Now, note that if you don't have a Node.js installed on your system, you have access to run the npm commands. Okay, just like I said in the first or second video, that yeah, Node is one of the things you're going to need to develop with Laravel using any JavaScript framework. Okay, so what we'll do now is simply we'll run the command. That means we'll paste the npm install and npm run dev. Okay, you can actually run this command separately. That means you can first of all run npm install, and then after the npm must have installed, you run the npm run dev. Okay, now if you watch, we have no folder like the node module here on our application. For those of us that might be that are new, okay, working with this. Okay, so what the npm install will do is it will install all the packages that you need in this your application. Like I said, when we installed the fresh Laravel, I said something about dependencies. Okay, now in your composer, if we come to this composer.json file, you're going to see different libraries and different other frameworks that the Laravel is going to work with. Okay, and they call it dependency because the Laravel depend on them to work. And these are the things that Composer help us manage. Like I said, the previously when I was talking about Composer, I said Composer is a dependency manager. Okay, like for instance, you can see what we have here. We have the PHP, this is the PHP version. We have the file loader prosy, and the left of them we have the Gozo HTTP, which is a HTTP client that you can make HTTP requests from your Laravel application. That's from the backend, from the PHP aspect of it. Okay, this is the initial JS which we just ran now, that we just installed, and this is the Laravel framework itself, and you can see the version 8.0. Okay, also we have the JetStream, we have the Sanctum, we have the Thinker, we have a lot of things here. These are some of the things that Laravel required. Okay, now when you come down here, you see the required dev. Okay, now all these ones that are here in the required dev are not really required in the main application, but they are required during development process. That means in your development you might need some of all these, okay, to work with. And there are a lot of configuration here that if we start to talk about, supposed to be for newbies, we'll talk about a lot of all this. Okay, now if you come to the package.json, which is just like a brother to the composer.json. Now in this part, these are also dependencies, but in this aspect we'll talk about dependencies for JavaScript, that is the front end dependencies. Okay, as you can see, just the way the composer JSON was structured, as structured in the JSON format, and that's how the package .json is actually structured with the dependencies that we need. And if you come here, you see, like you see your view here, you see your view templates, whatsoever, your Lodash, your JetStream, your ASOS, and a lot of that. Okay, now these are the scripts, like we want to run the npm dev and whatsoever, and this is where the package or JSON indicates them. Okay, so you should know. Okay, you should know the fact that when we talk about the front end dependencies, the package or JSON handle them, and when we talk about the back end dependency, composer.json handles those back end dependencies. Okay, so now let's go ahead and install the npm, that's the node modules, where all these dependency that are required by application will be installed inside a node module folder. Okay, now after installing, it's going to run the, that's compile them. The run dev is going to compile them into our public JS. Okay, so what I will simply do now, just hit my enter, and while it install, let's go through the folders again. Okay, if you come to resources and you come to view, you know initially we had only the welcome.blade.php, but now after we've installed that initial, we'll now have our app.blade.php. We have auth and our layouts. Okay, now for those of us that are not really new to Laravel, of course we know that these are what we are expecting. Okay, so but this is where a lot of things now changed. Okay, now before now, in the older version, in your layouts file, what you see, this app.blade that you're seeing here is supposed to be on the layout file. But now on the layout, we have guest.blade.php. Okay, the structure is same, but the difference here is we'll now have an at initial here in the body of our app. Okay, now in the other versions, this app.blade.php, like I said earlier, is supposed to be on the layout, and when it's on the layout, we'll have our authentications with it, and within the app.blade.php, that is where we build the structure of our application on, by simply creating a yield content that's using the blade templates, like that's at yield, sorry. Okay, so that is at yield. Okay, so this is what we actually do. In the other version, they will say content, whereby the other files that we're going to create, that are going to use this app as their layout, will automatically be yielded on this content. That means if we create a new file that we want to yield here, we'll simply have things like the session, we'll call it content. Okay, so this content, anything we put here, will be yielded on this app.blade. Okay, that is how the former one works, but this time around, the whole structure have changed in such a way that this at initial will serve up the entire app for you. Okay, using this same structure. Okay, now what actually happened here is all your assets, just like as you can see, were successfully compiled the application, and the application from the assets parts, where you have your css app.css and js app.js, were emitted into the public part. Now this is what it means. Now in these resources, this is where our development files resides. Okay, now in these development files, we'll have a standard app.js, where the whole application, since a view application, it will import everything it needs to work with, import view from wherever necessary. That's, it should be a view from what we saw on the package the other time. That's, we have this package of JSON. You see that I've view is part of what it requires. So when we install the node modules, which was installed by that command we just ran, node modules, you're going to see that node modules will install all the necessary things you need, like I said before. Now with the view will also be installed on this node module. Let me not just go there. So here on the app, okay, we imported the view, then required bootstrap. This bootstrap that is required is this bootstrap.js here, and this bootstrap.js, that's where you have other application that depend, other libraries that depend on bootstrap. Assuming we want to use something like jQuery in our application as well, we can simply require jQuery here as well, and it will be loaded with the bootstrap into the app.js. Now imported view and imported all other libraries and packages here. Then here it's just registering them, okay, registering them. Then document.getElement by ID app, which is to look for an element that have an ID app, which is normal vanilla script. So assign it to a variable, a constant rather, called app. Then the app will now be rendered as a view application, okay, rendered as exports the view as initial app, okay. So that's what we're seeing here. Now when it's render this, to render all the pages, that is required pages slash the page name dot default, okay. This is just like in the other version where we'll be using view. We'll have to register the components one after the other, okay. So this is just like creating the properties of a component and registering them at the same time, then mount the app. So what they did here was everything you need to work were created for you simply by compiling, okay. Now if you come to Jetstream folder here, you see a lot of components that have been created automatically, okay. So they're created automatically. Then you come to layouts, you see the app layout, which is the main layer, okay. That's the main layer when you log in your application, okay. Then we'll have a mixing, which automatically is compiled with your app.js. Then we have the API, we have the profile, and we have the dashboard itself, okay. So if you come to sorry, okay, we come to this our application, this application we're working on. So we click on, we refresh the application, okay. We have a database issue here. So since we're working with XAMPP, what I'll simply do is I'll go to my localhost / php myadmin, okay. Then on my php myadmin, I'm going to create a new database, okay. I'm going to call this, I'll call this let's say training, okay. And I create training, I'll simply create it. So what I'll do is I'll come to my environment file, which is the .env file here, and I'll configure this, okay. I have a database called training as what I just created. Then my username is root and my password is nothing, that is empty, okay. Now after I've done this, what I'll just need to do here is to simply say php artisan migrate, okay. Sorry, migrate, okay. So when I run the migrate, it's going to automatically create some database table for me. Okay, so if you open the structure, all the database table have been created automatically. So we'll talk more about the structure as we build the application, because we'll have to talk about all this again, talk about them in a way that we understand them better, okay, as we walk along on this application, okay. Then the next clip might be installing Laravel passports, because that's one of the major things we want to do. So install Laravel passports on this application first before we even start working on this. Okay, so I'll see you in the next clip.